In the quiet town of Lake Stevens, Washington, there lived a little boy named Dakota. Dakota was like any other 8-year-old. He loved baseball, adored his grandmother, and occasionally grumbled about his homework. But what set Dakota apart was a colossal secret. He had superpowers. Dakota could run faster than a cheetah, jump higher than a building, and had the extraordinary ability to communicate with squirrels. Well, he thought it was extraordinary, though the squirrels often just chattered back in their own squeaky language. Every night after finishing his homework and brushing his teeth, Dakota transformed into the town's secret hero, the Kid Sleuth. But he had to keep his powers under wraps, even from his parents. Dakota practiced his superhero moves in his room, where posters of his favorite baseball players adorned the walls. He had even fashioned a cape out of an old bedsheet, which he cleverly disguised as a blanket during the day. His parents thought he was just a regular kid, focusing on his studies and practicing baseball. Of course, not everything was as peaceful as Dakota wanted it to be. There was a boy named Charlie who lived across the street. Charlie wasn't your average kid. He didn't have superpowers, but he was exceptionally clever. He was a bit like a fox, always scheming and plotting mischievous plans to unlock secrets or trick others. His vibrant red hair matched his playful personality, and he had an arsenal of pranks that could easily send Dakota into a dizzying whirlwind of hilarity and trouble. One sunny afternoon, while playing baseball with his friends at the park, Dakota glanced toward the playground and spotted Charlie. Charlie was stacking wooden blocks precariously high. He smirked smugly as he watched a group of unsuspecting kids playing tag nearby. Dakota's eyes widened. He knew Charlie had something up his sleeve. "Hey, Dakota! Want to see something cool?" Charlie called out, clearly trying to get Dakota involved in his latest plot. Dakota sighed. He loved baseball, but he couldn't ignore Charlie's antics. "Sure, but make it quick, I've got practice." Charlie grinned mischievously. "Okay, but you might want to cover your ears." Dakota hesitated. Maybe he should just run back to the field, but a little nagging voice in his head told him that he couldn't leave his friends to face whatever trouble Charlie was brewing. As the kids tagged each other, camping on the sidelines to catch a breath, bam! Charlie released a whoopee cushion from behind a tree, sending a comical blast of air into the children's playful banter. All the kids burst into laughter, and Dakota couldn't help but chuckle too. But this wasn't the end of Charlie's shenanigans. "Watch this!" Charlie yelled, pulling out a small slingshot. Dakota's heart raced. He had seen this before. Charlie often used it to shoot marshmallows into unsuspecting bystanders, but today something felt off. Charlie aimed for the park ranger's shiny new pickup truck parked nearby. "No, no, no!" Dakota shouted, sprinting toward Charlie. With a blur, he reached the slingshot and, using his super speed, redirected the marshmallow skyward just as Charlie launched it. It soared high above, landing harmlessly on the trees. "Why did you do that?" Charlie pouted, crossing his arms. "Because it's not nice to mess with grown-ups," Dakota replied, eyes sparkling with self-importance. With the baseball game back in action, Dakota felt a proud glow swell in his chest. He was a hero, or so he thought, until the very next day turned a little troublesome. As Dakota arrived home after school, he found his grandmother, Grandma Jolene, in the kitchen baking cookies. The scent of warm chocolate chip delights filled the cozy house, something truly marvelous. Yet, Dakota could sense something was amiss when he saw Grandma Jolene gazing out the window with worry lines etched across her brow. "Grandma, you okay?" Dakota asked, concern knitting his brows together. "Oh, Dakota, sweetie, it's just the neighborhood raccoons. They've been rummaging through my recycling bins again." "I just wish they'd stop," she sighed. To Dakota, it sounded like a call for help. Little did Grandma know he had a plan. Later that night, as the moon shimmered over Lake Stevens and stars twinkled mischievously, Dakota donned his superhero cape. He quietly sneaked out through his bedroom window, his heart pounding with excitement. He raced towards Grandma's backyard, where he encountered the most rambunctious raccoon he'd ever seen. It was perched atop the recycling bin, flipping through cans with reckless abandon. "Hey, Bandit!" Dakota shouted, knowing the raccoon from his secret encounters. "Enough of this mess, let's play a game instead." The raccoon paused, eyeing Dakota with curiosity. Summoning his superpowers, Dakota leaped high into the air, whoosh, and flipped back down into the yard, landing gracefully. Bandit tilted his head, clearly impressed. "And if you beat me, I'll let you keep the leftover scraps for a week. But if I win, you leave Grandma's bins alone," Dakota challenged. With a playful squeak, Bandit eagerly accepted, and the two dashed around the yard in a series of contests. Who could climb the tallest tree? Who could scurry the quickest across the grass? Dakota was incredibly fast and had beautiful aerial skills. Bandit, however, was nimble and small, flitting between bushes and trees. After several rounds, Dakota eventually outmatched the crafty raccoon. "All right, Bandit, a deal's a deal. No more messing with Grandma's bins," Dakota declared triumphantly. The grateful raccoon nodded in compliance, scampering off into the darkness and leaving behind a content Dakota who felt like a true superhero. The following day, Dakota couldn't stop boasting about his heroic adventures to his friend Miles during lunch at school. "You should have seen it! I flipped and dodged like a squirrel," he exclaimed, mimicking his awesome moves. But then, to Dakota's horror, guess who was listening in? Charlie. With that sly grin, he leaned in and said, "You know, Dakota, I don't believe in superhero stories unless I see it for myself." And just like that, Dakota felt a chill run down his spine. How could he keep his powers secret if Charlie was on the hunt for proof? For the next few nights, Dakota became half boy, half ninja, practicing avoiding Charlie and any potential pranks. But it wasn't long until the annual Lake Stevens County Fair was just around the corner. The fair was a much-anticipated event filled with fun rides, games, and cotton candy. It was also Charlie's favorite opportunity to cause mischief. The festival blossomed into a crowded affair, and Dakota's eyes twinkled with excitement. But as he watched people milling about, he kept an extra lookout for Charlie, knowing mischief was bound to happen. Suddenly, Dakota spotted trouble. Charlie was sneaking around the prize booth where Mrs. Jenkins, the kind-hearted lady who ran the stand, had set up an enormous board of stuffed animals for the kids to win. Charlie snatched a rubber snake from the bottom shelf and started to shake it mockingly at Mrs. Jenkins. "Want to pet my little friend?" Charlie shouted, holding it just a little too close. Chaos ensued as kids shrieked in laughter and fear, spilling soda all around. With a flicker of dread, Dakota raced toward the booth, knowing he had to act quickly. In full kid sleuth mode, he dashed between people, his cape fluttering behind him. "Hey, Charlie!" Dakota called out, feigning nonchalance while keeping his superpowers under wraps. Did you know snakes can be trained?
Thank you. Make sure to like and subscribe.